question for you. Should I bring up Retribution? Do you feel like talking about Retribution?
Sure. Yeah, let's talk.
Okay, I was like, let me ask. Let me see if you're in the mood to talk about Retribution.
So here's the thing. A lot of people assume that I'm like, that I look back at Retribution as this horrible, miserable, dark time. I don't look at it that way. There was difficult parts of it, and those are the parts of it that people want to gravitate towards, because a lot of it involves Vince McMahon, and there's just this shroud of controversy around him and all this darkness, and so I get it. I get that the controversy generates interest, but for the most part, it was really just me and my very close friends. I just talked about Shane. He was in Retribution with me. Brennan, the MXM. All those guys, Ali, I saw him the other day. These are all my really close friends. So yes, it's this difficult position where like we're being told you have to wear this mask and you have to do this and your name is this, and it's like, oh. So I get that people gravitate towards that part, but for the most part, the day-to-day of it was like going to work with my friends and, hey, you have this huge pay raise and you're still working during the pandemic when nobody else is working. Tons of people are getting fired. So we looked at that every day as like a super positive. Like we're in the Thunderdome, which is like, yeah, it kind of stinks because you want to be in front of a live crowd. And I've never been in front of a live Monday Night Raw crowd, aside from a couple of little things with NXT right before that. But the Thunderdome in its own right is like this. As I remember multiple times sitting in the Thunderdome and just kind of looking around and being like, this is an experience that will go down in history, and it'll almost become like a thing of legend, because no one else is ever going to experience this again. There were times, and I've told this story before, there were times where I would be sitting in the upper deck of the arena at the Thunderdome just watching Monday Night Raw, and I'm the only person in this giant arena. So they're doing Monday Night Raw like for me, and I'm just sitting there watching it. And that wasn't lost on me in the moment. I would sit there with my friends just watching Monday Night Raw, and I'm like, this is the coolest thing ever. This is the coolest thing ever. Like, you literally can't pay. There's nobody in the world rich enough to pay to just sit in an arena by themselves and watch Monday Night Raw. It just doesn't exist. And we're getting it, and they're paying us to do it. I was like, this is the coolest thing ever.
That's the real VIP right there.
In a way,
VVIP.
In a way, it felt like the coolest thing. And then we'd go down and wrestle, and the wrestling was unique because like we in the industry we call it crash to break, which is like you do something and then it goes to commercial. We do that, and then they'd be like, all right, we're dark, and we just stop wrestling. There's a couple clips online of that leaked out or whatever of that happening, but it would be so funny as we're doing it because you just kind of stop wrestling and just talk to the other person like standing out there, and then it'd be like, all right, we're coming back live in 15 seconds. You grab a chin lock or whatever. It was just the funniest experience, just the most unique thing in the world. So yeah, I know that there's going to be a lot of dark portions to the Retribution stuff, and rightfully so. But yeah, for us, mostly on the day-to-day piece of it, it was just a ton of fun and just a really interesting time, and we wanted to succeed. We wanted it to succeed. So we would bounce ideas off each other, and we're pitching stuff, and it was this whole process. So yes, it was difficult and it was frustrating, but at the same time, there was a lot of fun aspects of it.
Do you think it would have worked out differently at all if it wasn't during the pandemic?
Yes. I don't know how, but it's pro wrestling, so there's the potential for anything. It could have gotten over in like a silly, ironic way, which would have been interesting, and we could have played around with that. Maybe it progresses into a comedy thing, and then it just starts to escalate that way into something that gets super over. You just never know. You never know how it's going to progress. Or maybe the crowd would have reacted in a certain way that makes it much more serious. I don't know. It's hard to say. I know that the initial presentation of us, like of the lights going out and the signs coming up and us storming through the crowd or whatever, that would have been significantly cooler with people, right? Just coming into like the Thunderdome, like, oh, they came through the screens. It's like nobody.
You only had commentary to play with.
It doesn't fulfill that like sort of like rebel anarchist sort of like, oh, they're doing whatever they want, sort of, because you're obviously there in the same place that everybody else is, and there's no like security guards or anything, so you're literally just coming from the same place that everybody else is. You're just taking a longer route to get there. Whereas if you're doing, the Shield thing, where it's like they're coming through the crowd, they're these mercenaries, where are they? Where do they live? Where do they come from? It just because it's a totally different presentation. So yeah, I think it would have changed. I think it would have got different sort of reactions, but what a lot of people forget is that ultimately, especially at that time, it was just one guy's decision, right? And he could decide whatever he wanted. And a lot of the time he just did. It didn't matter how things were being perceived. It didn't matter how things were going. He would just say, I like it or I don't like it. And that was it. So, it's so funny we spend so much time just predicting what this one guy would have thought about something, but that's the reality of what the business was for a long time. And in some senses, it's still that way. That's what booking is. It's just one person making decisions, and it's hard for fans to accept that, because myself included as a fan, because like I want to feel like I'm influencing the product and I want to, but ultimately at the end of the day, somebody has to make the decision. So it usually just boils down to like how they feel, and that's what it is.